Howdy, everybody. Welcome to Highly Questionable Marketing. And we have a highly questionable topic actually from yours truly. I wrote about a few weeks ago, and I'm seeing it more and more on LinkedIn. So I really want to dive into this idea, which is, are we actually over aligning to revenue? And this asshole Jay Barron comes out and says there's something highly questionable going on with this push to measure marketing on marketing sourced revenue as the main KPI. And then I followed up with a new way to measure marketing for marketers created by martech vendors and agencies. Big claims, lots of benefits, no real answers, just aligned to revenue. Who wants to come at me? What do we got?
I mean, Jay, I actually agree with the sketchy poster of that post. No, I'm just kidding. But, I remember a few years ago when ABM was the thing every single vendor was pushing. Do ABM. I went to conferences. I attended ABM sessions. I actually deployed ABM strategy at 2 different companies, and they both failed. And why they both failed was because it's like ABM having sales choose accounts doesn't look at any intention of their buying. It hasn't netted at either place. And I think that now vendors are going around revenue because it's trendy, but that doesn't mean that it's the right approach for you. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think, Liz, you said something that kind of sums up how I feel about this and why I'm just pushing back. And again, I'm not saying that revenue isn't right or wrong. I just want us to really think critically about this, which is, here's what I see happening right now in this space of LinkedIn land and shit, which is, you know what? All these vendors and agencies actually are the ones who told us to measure on MQLs. They then transitioned and told us to measure on marketing influenced, right? Now it's just really strange that they're all positioning around revenue. They're all telling you to measure revenue. And now they're also telling you to just forget attribution. You don't need to worry about that, right? And I'm kind of calling bullshit a little bit. I think Drift is revenue acceleration. Freaking Ring DNA or whatever it was just went to revenue.io and it's marketing. You better get on board with this new revenue train. And I'm like, whoa, let's just pump the brakes here a little bit and make sure that if you're a marketing leader, you're signing up for the right measurement. And I'll tell you before you're going to kick it off to you is I think this push to revenue is just sales led in disguise. I think it's getting marketing budget to continuously buy sales tools.
Oh,
I like that you're borderline conspiracy theory on this shit, Jay.
Hat comes out.
Little bit.
Yeah, I get it. So my concern with this focus on revenue is a little bit different. I think you have a point there. There's something going on with this world out there that's pushing everybody in this direction. For me, it's just like, really, guys, insane focus on revenue as the main thing. Is that truly incentivizing the right behavior inside marketing teams? It's like, of course we should care about revenue. Like, I've been in teams like saying, hey team, it's all about revenue. Like, I literally have been that guy and am that guy and all that stuff, right? But that actually isn't the main job of marketing. Like, I don't believe it. My opinion is that marketing's main job is to get people to understand or appreciate or otherwise care for what you got to say and do in the world. It isn't to drive the revenue. Marketing's job isn't to make the cash register ring. That's a byproduct of what marketing ends up doing. And if you have a sales team, etc., it's fucking sales. That's the job of that function.
I think the issue with incentivizing for one single metric, and it's the same whether it's MQL or whether it's revenue, is you start thinking about the funnel as one singular pathway that ignores the buyer journey. And you start making choices that don't make sense when you think of yourself as a buyer and a human versus just a number floating down a singular pathway of a funnel. So, I will always say, like, I am a data-driven marketer. I drive pipeline, and revenue are my goals for my team. They are. But you have to sometimes think about things and think about your customer journey and just bring some common sense to it versus trying to improve a funnel that people don't actually kind of move through in reality.
Yeah. I think that there's a few points too that I think one, Liz, you had one, which is right. We're kind of forgetting the funnel now. It's all about that whole marketing sourced, which is a demo request, right? And it's like screw everything else. And to me, demo is just the new lead. That's the number one miss. Win rates are dropping. I see it across the board as demo volume goes up. But then Jurgen, I think you had another interesting point, which is, yeah, like the revenue thing. I'm not in that as well. I think there's one, as I think about, there's different stages companies go through when it makes sense to measure them on revenue, right? If you are in a marketing company, or if you're in a company right now running marketing, you have a growth lever. It's simply putting fuel on that growth lever. It makes sense to measure marketing on revenue at that time because you're growing, right? But eventually, at some point, that shit does plateau. Right? You need to identify new growth levers. That's going to come from new products or new markets. It's not fair. And I see marketing always get the blame during those times for at least 12 months before the company realizes, oh shit, actually the product's the problem, right? Like marketing gets the blame in those situations when a growth levers run out. And that's why I think there's just different stages you have to recognize on when you're going to measure marketing on what based on where the company is at.
Yeah, I mean, I think that especially if you're trying to find new growth levers, I mean, that becomes a point of conversation that, hey, like we're not going to see revenue in the next, 1 to 8 months. I mean, for me, we see some anywhere between 1 and 10 month buying cycles. The reality is if we try something new in January, you're not going to see revenue until October. So if you are only looking at revenue,
Yeah.
you're not going to pivot until October. That's just unrealistic. So you need to think about
So
it.
what do we do? We have all these vendors aligning to revenue. I think it's actually really concerning. I actually think it's tricky marketing and sales, honestly. They want all the budget, right? And then the other thing that maybe I want to piggyback off really quick as we go into this topic, which is the other thing I see happening is this whole push by all these vendors to ignore attribution now. And then they're simply stealing credit for any growth, right? They're doing things going, well, your pipeline's up. So, you're going to attribute that to us. I saw a post from an agency this week that said that. How do I know this is working? Well, your pipeline's up. Well, yeah, that's actually really easy to do early on, right? Like I can come in, fix some things, drive a little pipeline, but how do you continue that? So I don't know. Are there any thoughts there? Am I off? Am I crazy?
Well, yes, but no, you're not completely off. I mean, I think that in the end, it's just how you message it and how you reflect back to leadership on what you're doing. You have to be consistent with, hey, we are testing out growth levers. We're not expecting to see revenue. And I know that I love to look at the full funnel in totality and treat it like a scientific test. If I do A, does B happen, right? And you document those tests, you present them to leadership, you are consistent with your expectations. That way you're measuring your growth levers, you're trying something new. But again, if you wait for revenue, you're probably just going to
I
run into
think
the wrong
that's just it
topic.
too. Maybe a different way to take this is revenue, like the revenue, the way it's being positioned. And I want to get your take on this actually, which is it's all about net new business. Then it's acting like that's the only way to drive growth from marketing is bringing in net new customers. And the reality that's not. Typically, you're adding new products, you're getting cross sell, upsell opportunities. You're working on retention, right? Things like that are actually going to drive more revenue than marketing continually going out and just getting net new business.
Yeah, that's a really strong point. Also, like, what is revenue marketing? Like, is that the new demand gen?
It is.
Like,
It's the new MQL. Revenue marketing is the new MQL.
but like it's a discipline though. It's like, yeah, hi, I'm VP of revenue marketing at company so and so.
Okay, my title was growth marketing.
It's
Okay,
that,
okay.
No, but like
yeah,
no.
it's,
I'm saying there are people with that title,
No,
Liz. I
I
know
know,
you're.
I know. And Rev Ops, like you look at revenue ops, and I do think that there is a point to have those roles because you should look at your closed one and look at what is similar between them, and you can use that to drive some of your marketing strategy. However,
Of
it is
course.
not all of it, and you have to do things like test new narratives, test new products, look at features. Like you have
yeah,
to run things that are literally not going to run pipeline if you're going to be effective in your strategy. And you have to make the case for those. And there probably won't be any attribution to testing something new, especially when you start. But companies are missing if that is the baseline for running things.
I want to go to what Jurgen said and kind of the elephant in the room. I still think this whole push to revenue is simply still sales led. It's the same old song and dance with a different name and packaged up differently, but it's still sales led. I do not know very many revenue leaders that are marketing people. Very few. That role typically is a sales leader that moved up to a revenue and is now running both. And it's going to be marketing. What have you done for me lately? Where the hell are my leads? Where the hell is my revenue? And it's the same song and dance, but it just sounds a lot prettier as revenue.
I think I think you're right. And I think that the pendulum is just clearly swinging too far. It, there's no doubt in my mind that we will come to a point in the future where we all say, yeah, we took it a little bit far with that.
Revenue marketing is dead. That's what people will say in 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be the new thing, right?
The appeal died. Revenue died. What's next? What are we resurrecting?
Yeah. But I think also Jay is right in that this isn't a new thing. Like for us who've been around for a little bit, this isn't a new thing. I just think it's crazy to obsess so much about revenue. And I don't know if we would had it not been for the kind of 1.5 to 2 years we've been through, where there's been carnage and stuff, right? I think that it's a little bit of a reaction to some of the challenges. And you mentioned earlier, Jay, Drift talking about being a revenue acceleration platform. Part of that narrative was revenue is now more important than ever to businesses. So therefore, we are going to kind of use our tool to be a help for you to accelerate that revenue. And then at the same time, they're actually hiring a VP of revenue marketing, right? And so it's the ball is just really rolling on this revenue thing, and there isn't anything wrong with it. The only thing is it balanced out with the other shit that marketing is supposed to do. And that's where I think that we're kind of missing as a space, is that we're not balanced.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think you do need to find the balance between what won't actually drive growth on paper but is valuable to learning about your audience, versus what actually drives revenue. And don't get me wrong, you shouldn't piss away all of your marketing budget on things that are just learning about your audience, but it is incredibly, and one of the most important things that marketers can do is learn and just be a continuous learner.
Yeah. I think it sounds like we're all in alignment, right? I think there's times and places where revenue makes sense. You just got to be very careful. I think a lot of marketers in this push, if you look at LinkedIn land as our nemesis, I guess, a lot of the companies that are preaching this are already companies that are growing, right? It's really easy for, no diss, love the guy, seems super smart, like Kyle Lacey at Leslie, to say you should be measured on revenue, right? Well, yeah, you guys are growing, you have a growth lever, that's easy to say. It's a lot harder when you're a practical marketer, growth's a little difficult, you're not growing where you want to be. It's really easy to say, well, marketing, you get measured on revenue, you're not doing your shit.
Let me jump in on that, Jay. So as the imperfect marketer, having led other imperfect marketing teams, I'm well aware of all the challenges that gets in the way of all of a sudden just turning up the revenue dial, right? The other thing here is that the type of stuff that we're talking about is really hard. And if you aren't set up to actually execute on it the right way, then it will actually potentially be somewhat of a race to the bottom for you. You can screw your own stuff up pretty bad trying to pursue something like this if you aren't set up to actually do it. I've been in companies where there have been so many things with the infrastructure and the foundation to where if I focused all my team's attention on just generating revenue, we would just fail so miserably because there are so many other things that we had to get right. So it's the classic kind of advice, who is this advice for? Yeah. Is it for the people who are already crushing it and growing and have that growth lever and or is it for the practical marketer who's dealing with a tough situation and it's it's really easy for everybody else to just tell that person, they just focus on revenue.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's where demand gen and revenue, to me, that's the roof of the house. It's important. It keeps the rain out. You need it. But the foundation is not that. The foundation is narrative, content, and mops. Those are my 3 foundations that supports your house. And it doesn't matter if you don't have those 3 things supporting your house. Like, a roof's not going to do shit, you know? It's like you need the foundation set, and then you can start layering on revenue strategy. But without those 3 foundational items, it's just a roof.
Well, let's be clear though, right? Like, and this is the kind of what irks me. Only bad marketers at the end of the day weren't looking at revenue, right? Like, we all cared about growing and driving revenue. Like, we get that. That was never not something we were trying to do.
I don't know, like 7 years ago, I don't think it was as clear what marketing's revenue goal was. It was MQLs for a long time.
Yeah, but still at the end of the day, if you're doing MQLs and you weren't generating revenue to some extent, right? Like, only bad, like, I just want to be clear. Like, there's not marketing teams sitting out there going, we don't give a shit about, revenue at all. Like, that's just not happening.
Oh,
Like,
I think it happens more than you
this is
think, where
overdone.
marketing's main KPI is MQLs, and they do handshakes in the parking lot when they hit their MQL goal, and then blame sales when sales don't make it. I think that still happens.
I'll say it. That's just bad marketers.
Relatively commonly, more than you would think. But
what I take from that though is that, like, yeah, for a lot of us, whether we are fully bought into this focus on revenue or not, it's not like we haven't cared about revenue, right? Like, we all understand. Like, let there be no confusion about it. Like, everybody here appreciates the value of it, and we know that it's oxygen, right? Like, if you aren't generating revenue, you are going to be screwed. The question is, with a focus on that, are you going to be making the right decision?
Yes, 100% agree.
That's it.
Yep. A pendulum swung too far. You've got to find that happy medium.